Hello friends. Let's talk about something that never fails to spark curiosity, debate, and, let's be honest, a little bit of spicy intrigue. We're diving into the bedroom, but not just anyone's bedroom. No, we're talking about what happens when Sagittarius shares sheets with every other sign in the zodiac. Wild? Yes. Adventurous? Always. Predictable? Never. Sagittarius is ruled by Jupiter, the planet of expansion, luck, and adventure, and oh boy, do they bring that energy to the bedroom. A Sag isn't looking to just scratch an itch, they're looking for an experience. But how does that vibe play out with the other signs? Who matches their fiery energy, and who gets left panting for all the wrong reasons? Let's take a deep dive, sign by sign, and see just how compatible Sagittarius really is when it comes to sex. Buckle up. This is going to be fun. Sagittarius plus Aries. Sex between Sagittarius and Aries is anything but subtle. It's fast, loud, full throttle, and rarely follows a script. In fact, these two might throw the script into the fireplace just for fun. Both are fire signs, ruled by energy, ego, and a thirst for newness. But they express it differently. Aries brings pure intensity and the need to conquer, while Sagittarius brings unpredictability and a thirst for exploration. Together, they create a bedroom dynamic that's high-octane, short on limits, and dangerously fun. The moment these two lock eyes, the tension is palpable. There's a mutual recognition. You're bold. I'm bold. Let's skip the small talk. Foreplay is a competitive sport. Aries may take the lead physically, but Sagittarius plays psychological games, keeping Aries guessing with clever innuendo and unexpected moves. It's not just about touch, it's about who can surprise the other more. One minute they're tearing each other's clothes off in the kitchen, the next they're laughing mid-thrust because someone suggested trying it upside down on a yoga ball. There's no shame, no hesitation, just go. What makes this sexual pairing so explosive is their shared love of spontaneity. Planned intimacy feels like a crime to both. Instead, they thrive on in-the-moment heat. That might mean sex on a rooftop during a party, a quickie behind a locked office door, or turning a lazy Sunday into a 12-hour experiment in creative positions. If it's forbidden or a little risky, even better. Sagittarius lives for the thrill. Aries lives for the chase. Put those together, and it's like striking a match in a fireworks factory. But don't expect slow intimacy or a candlelit, let's connect on a soul level, night. Neither is naturally inclined to dwell in emotional vulnerability, especially not in bed. Sex is a playground, a battlefield, an arena, and while it's hot, it can lack depth. Aries might want to feel like they own their partner, while Sagittarius refuses to be claimed. This can lead to power struggles. Arguments over control. Flare-ups when one tries to win the bedroom. Still, the make-up sex. Legendary. If they want this connection to evolve beyond physicality, there has to be balance. Aries must learn not to take Sag's freedom-loving nature personally. Sagittarius must understand that Aries thrives on loyalty and devotion, even if it's wrapped in ego. When these two slow down just enough to feel rather than only do, they unlock a whole new level of passion. One where the sex isn't just thrilling, it's meaningful. But will they stick around long enough to get there? Depends on the moon, the mood, and whether one of them saw something shiny and ran after it. Sagittarius plus Taurus. This pairing is the ultimate study in contrast. Think silk sheets versus sleeping under the stars. Homemade fondue versus gas station snacks on a road trip. When Sagittarius and Taurus collide sexually, the friction is undeniable, but so is the potential for satisfaction if they're willing to embrace each other's differences. Sagittarius is fast, wild, impulsive, a bedroom daredevil. Taurus is slow, sensual, grounded, a connoisseur of physical pleasure. One wants to explore every kink in the book, the other wants to savor every second of eye contact. On paper, it's a mess. In practice, it can be unexpectedly delicious. At first, Taurus may be overwhelmed by Sagittarius energy. Sag flirts with fire in their eyes and a new position in their back pocket. Taurus might find this exciting, or exhausting. They prefer to feel safe and adored before giving themselves over fully. Sag, meanwhile, sees Taurus' need for emotional buildup and familiar rhythms as a bit of a buzzkill. Why wait when we could do? Why talk when we could touch? But here's where things get interesting. Sagittarius may be the one to finally crack Taurus' shell in a new way. With their boundless enthusiasm and lack of sexual shame, Sag helps Taurus take risks, maybe try toys they'd previously side-eyed or initiate in places they'd never dare to on their own. Taurus, in return, teaches Sagittarius the power of anticipation. They show Sag that slow hands, deep breathing, and the perfect playlist can build tension so high, it becomes unbearable, and that's where the magic happens. Sex between these two can be surprisingly balanced when they're both in tune. Sagittarius adds the spice, Taurus adds the soul. Sagittarius will want to try that new rope harness they saw on Instagram. Taurus will insist it be on a plush rug with jazz playing in the background. Done right, it becomes a decadent, multi-sensory experience, playful, grounding, and oddly poetic. But don't underestimate the challenges. Taurus may become emotionally attached more quickly, craving consistency and affection. Sagittarius, while not heartless, is deeply allergic to anything that feels like routine or obligation. Taurus might want to snuggle after sex, Sag might be looking for their pants before the second moan has faded. Without communication, this can lead to disappointment, or worse, resentment. Still, if Taurus loosens their grip and Sagittarius learns to linger, this connection can thrive. In fact, it can be a kind of sexual alchemy neither expected, one where wild meets worship, and adventure meets affection. Will it be easy? No. But will it be worth it? If they get it right, absolutely. Sagittarius plus Gemini. This isn't just sex, it's an improv show, a TED Talk, and a roller coaster ride all rolled into one. Sagittarius and Gemini are opposite signs in the zodiac, which means they're naturally drawn to each other like magnets. And when they connect, it's less about deep soul gazing and more about, hey, have you ever tried this, in every possible context. What makes this pairing unique is that the arousal doesn't always start with touch, it often starts with talk. For both of them, the brain is the first erogenous zone. They'll spend hours building the tension through clever banter, wordplay, and playful debates. One moment they're discussing the ethics of alien contact, the next moment someone's shirt is mysteriously gone. The foreplay here is linguistic, flirtatious, and fast-paced. They're aroused by wit, by randomness, by the sheer fun of not knowing what's coming next. Gemini will throw out a wild idea, Sagittarius will say, let's try it. There's no shame, no awkwardness, just a mutual love of experience for the sake of experience. In bed, they're endlessly curious and totally down to experiment. Positions? They've tried half the Kama Sutra before breakfast. Locations? Let's just say they're both banned from at least one rooftop bar. They're not afraid to laugh mid-thrust or stop halfway through to dissect the scene of a movie that just popped into their heads. This sexual connection thrives on variety and spontaneity, it never gets stale, because neither of them will let it. Even a quickie with these two somehow involves laughter, a mini existential crisis, and something completely new. But while the chemistry is off the charts intellectually and physically, emotional depth isn't exactly their strong suit, at least not in the beginning. Both Gemini and Sagittarius tend to float rather than anchor. They're avoidant of anything too heavy, too clingy, too demanding. Sex is where they play, not necessarily where they connect deeply on a soul level. That means their encounters can feel thrilling but hollow if one or both secretly craves something more grounded. Now, if they decide to stick around, and that's a big if, this pairing has a secret superpower. They can develop into lovers who understand that emotional intimacy doesn't have to be heavy. It can be light, free, and still meaningful. Gemini learns that not every new idea requires escape, and Sagittarius realizes that staying doesn't mean giving up freedom. Together, they create a sexual dynamic that's full of laughter, learning, and wild stories they probably shouldn't tell in public. But until then, this duo is the king and queen of the "we just met but talked for 6 hours and now we're naked" storyline. Hot, fun, unforgettable, and maybe gone by morning, but always with a smile. Sagittarius plus Cancer. At first glance, this pairing feels like trying to mix oil and water, or more accurately, fire and a tidal wave of feelings. Sagittarius is all about freedom, excitement, and living in the moment. Cancer craves emotional safety, deep connection, and slow-burning trust. So how does this even begin to work in bed? Surprisingly, with just the right amount of vulnerability and a whole lot of patience, these two can create something not just sexy, but beautifully transformative. Let's be real though, the first few encounters between Cancer and Sagittarius might feel like two people reading entirely different instructions. Sagittarius initiates with humor, boldness, and a bit of chaos, maybe a spontaneous grab or a joke that completely throws off Cancer's vibe. Cancer, on the other hand, needs emotional context. They want to feel seen, desired, and held. Not just physically, but emotionally. So while Sagittarius is trying to spice things up with a blindfold and a playlist called "Let's Get Weird," Cancer is still trying to figure out if they're truly being valued or just being used for a story. But here's where things can flip. If Sagittarius takes a moment, just a moment, to slow down and show a little tenderness, Cancer opens up in a way that's almost intoxicating. Suddenly, Sag realizes that emotional depth doesn't have to be boring, it can be seductive. Cancer's touch is soft but intense. Their ability to attune to their partner's needs in bed is almost psychic. For a wild child like Sagittarius, this kind of deep, intuitive sex can feel like discovering a whole new layer of intimacy they didn't know they wanted. Cancer, in turn, can be awakened by Sag's playful spontaneity. Underneath their guarded nature is a deeply sensual being who just needs to feel safe enough to explore. With Sagittarius bringing laughter, lightness, and a fearless, "let's try it" attitude, Cancer may find themselves shedding their usual hesitations. Suddenly, the idea of making love under the stars, skinny dipping at midnight, or even taking a few playful risks starts to feel exciting. They might still want that cuddle afterward, but they'll have earned it. Now, this all hinges on mutual respect. Sagittarius must resist the urge to ghost when things get too feely, and Cancer has to avoid trying to pin Sag down emotionally before they're ready. If either one moves too fast in their own direction, the connection crumbles, leaving Cancer hurt and Sag annoyed. But if they strike that rare balance, they can discover sex that's not just exciting, but healing. Cancer brings emotional richness, Sagittarius brings fiery liberation. It's not just hot, it's potentially life-changing. When it works, this pairing creates a kind of tantric magic that feels like being in a jungle retreat with your soul and your desire dancing together under the moonlight. But when it doesn't, it's a one-night emotional roller coaster, and someone's definitely texting their therapist the next morning. Sagittarius plus Leo. This pairing doesn't walk into a bedroom, it bursts in, glitter cannon first. When Sagittarius and Leo get together, the sexual energy is vibrant, unapologetic, and turned all the way up to 11. Both are fire signs, so naturally, there's a mutual craving for heat, attention, and passion. But it's not just the physical act that fuels them, it's the performance. Leo wants to be admired, to be center stage, to be worshipped. Sagittarius? They want the thrill of the hunt, the unexpected twist, the scene-stealing plot twist. So when these two light up the room, you're not just getting sex, you're getting a show. Foreplay begins with ego-stroking and flirtation turned into full-blown drama. Leo struts, purrs, and makes eye contact that could melt diamonds. Sagittarius throws witty jabs, cracks a joke, then pulls Leo in by the waist, just enough to keep them guessing. It's playful, theatrical, and always teetering on the edge of a power struggle. Who's in charge? Trick question. Neither of them's willing to give up the spotlight. So instead, they take turns stealing the scene. One moment Leo's in control, commanding attention like royalty, and the next, Sagittarius flips the energy with a surprise move that leaves even the king or queen gasping. Sex between them is anything but predictable. Costumes, props, hotel rooms with themes, nothing is off limits. Leo loves the aesthetic, the fantasy, the glam. Sagittarius brings spontaneity and humor, turning even a casual afternoon romp into something worthy of a movie montage. Think, mirrors on the ceiling, music blasting, maybe a choreographed striptease, and yes, probably a sex tape. But not just any sex tape, one with lighting, angles, and a full debate afterward about who had the best performance. It's all in good fun, until someone takes it a little too personally. Then there's a passionate argument, followed by even more passionate make-up sex. But here's the kicker, while the sexual chemistry is undeniable, there's an underlying tension. Both Sagittarius and Leo crave admiration, but in different ways. Leo wants to be adored, to be told they're the best, the most beautiful, the center of the universe. Sagittarius, meanwhile, wants to be wanted, but not tamed. They need freedom like oxygen, and too much adoration can feel like a trap. So if Leo starts demanding constant attention or devotion, Sagittarius might start pulling away. And if Sagittarius becomes too nonchalant, too distracted by the next thrill, Leo's pride could take a major hit. Still, when they're in sync, it's magic. Leo brings warmth, generosity, and a dazzling physicality. Sagittarius adds fire, curiosity, and a willingness to say yes to literally anything, at least once. Together, they create a sexual experience that's larger than life, wild, and deeply satisfying for both. It's less about subtlety and more about passion unleashed, the kind that leaves the sheets on the floor, the bed half broken, and both of them laughing and slightly bruised by the end of it all. Long term, this pairing thrives on shared adventure and constant reinvention. Boredom is the enemy, and thankfully, neither of them allows it in the room. They'll need to learn how to balance ego with empathy, performance with presence, and chaos with care. But if they do, they won't just be great lovers, they'll be legends. Sagittarius plus Virgo. This is the kind of pairing that makes no sense on paper and yet absolutely sizzles behind closed doors. Virgo is precise, private, and prefers to operate with a detailed itinerary, even in bed. Sagittarius is messy, bold, and loves to throw the rulebook out the window possibly during foreplay. At first glance, their styles seem totally incompatible. But when Virgo's quiet control meets Sagittarius' unpredictable flair, something deeply intriguing starts to happen. It's not about matching, it's about challenging. And that challenge? It's surprisingly hot. Let's start with the vibe. Sagittarius walks into the room like a whirlwind, bold, brash, full of jokes and wild ideas. Virgo watches, silently judging, and secretly intrigued. Sag might tease Virgo for being uptight, while Virgo critiques Sag's lack of subtlety, but underneath that tension is a thick undercurrent of curiosity. Virgo wants to know what makes Sag so fearless. Sagittarius wants to know what Virgo is hiding behind that perfectly buttoned-up shirt. That curiosity becomes fuel, and before either of them realizes it, they're tangled up in a deeply unexpected, utterly delicious sexual dance. In the bedroom, Virgo is a master of detail. They may not advertise their sensuality, but once the trust is built, they unleash a deeply controlled and shockingly kinky side. Sagittarius, with their experimental nature, is more than happy to test every boundary, sometimes just to see Virgo blush. That dynamic creates a powerful push-pull. Virgo teaches Sagittarius the beauty of intention, the kind of touch that's slow, deliberate, and completely in tune. Sagittarius, in turn, encourages Virgo to break their own rules, to explore their desires without shame or hesitation. Communication becomes key here, and luckily, both signs are ruled by Mercury and Jupiter, which means there's no shortage of conversation. They'll talk through fantasies, boundaries, safe words, and everything in between. Virgo appreciates Sag's openness, Sagittarius thrives on Virgo's depth. Sex becomes a learning experience, intellectual, physical, and a little bit spiritual. It's not always wild or loud, but it is transformative. And sometimes, when Sagittarius dials down the chaos and Virgo dials up the courage, it's explosive. Still, it's not without friction. Sagittarius might grow impatient with Virgo's tendency to overthink, analyze, or critique every moment. Meanwhile, Virgo could find Sag's unpredictability exhausting, even reckless. If Sagittarius treats intimacy too casually, Virgo may shut down emotionally and physically. And if Virgo becomes too controlling, Sagittarius might bolt without warning. To make it work, they both have to meet halfway. Virgo has to loosen their grip on perfection, and Sagittarius has to stay present instead of chasing the next thrill. But when they do, oh, it's magic. Virgo brings a hidden intensity and emotional awareness that Sagittarius didn't know they craved. Sagittarius brings lightness and liberation that Virgo didn't know they needed. It's the classic case of chaos and order, wild and wise, and somehow, when it clicks, the chemistry is not only real, it's unforgettable. Sagittarius plus Libra. Put Sagittarius and Libra in the same room and the energy instantly shifts into something glossy, flirtatious, and full of cinematic promise. This is the couple that looks like a music video in public and an erotic art film in private. Libra, ruled by Venus, is the zodiac's artist of sensuality. They curate everything from lighting to lingerie, tone to timing. Sagittarius, on the other hand, brings the spontaneous spark that keeps things unpredictable, playful, and just a little bit wild. Together, they create a sexual dynamic that's equal parts glamorous and experimental, like a fantasy that comes with mood lighting and a safe word. The seduction between them starts long before clothes come off. Sagittarius flirts with reckless charm, throwing bold compliments and suggestive jokes that make Libra blush, then lean in. Libra returns serve with graceful banter and perfectly timed touches. They don't just build tension, they style it. Think, eye contact across a crowded room, whispered promises during a slow dance, hands brushing accidentally during dinner. The actual act. That's just the second course. The foreplay starts with their chemistry, and it simmers until both are completely intoxicated by the idea of each other. In bed, Libra brings beauty and balance. Everything matters, the sheets, the scent of the room, the curve of a shoulder caught in just the right light. Sagittarius adds fire and surprise, maybe a bold suggestion, a daring position, or an accidental spill that turns into a scene. They're both endlessly curious, both lovers of pleasure, and both open to experimentation, as long as it stays sexy, fun, and doesn't get too emotionally messy. Libra likes things refined and aesthetically pleasing, even when it's kinky. Sagittarius will agree, but also sneak in something outrageous just to see how far they can go before Libra gasps, then grins. Their sexual rhythm can be incredibly satisfying. Sagittarius keeps things exciting and alive, always pushing boundaries just enough to avoid routine. Libra knows how to draw out moments, create space for true sensual immersion, and make even the wildest encounter feel elegant. Together, they can make a Sunday morning hookup feel like a scene from a French film. There's beauty here, not just in their bodies or moves, but in how they read each other's needs and chase pleasure with creativity, not obligation. But here's the catch, neither one of them likes conflict. Sagittarius avoids it out of boredom or impatience, Libra avoids it because harmony is everything. So what happens when the sex gets repetitive, or someone wants more than the other is willing to give? Often, nothing. They smile. They change the subject. And then quietly drift apart, not because the passion isn't there, but because no one wanted to break the spell by saying what wasn't working. If this pair wants to turn their beautiful chemistry into lasting heat, they'll need to learn to talk, really talk. Not just about fantasies and favorite positions, but about expectations, emotional availability, and boundaries. Sagittarius needs to check in emotionally, even if it feels uncomfortable. Libra needs to stop sugarcoating things and admit when their needs aren't being met. If they can do that, they unlock something rare, a relationship where sex isn't just hot and pretty, but deeply fulfilling. But even if it doesn't last forever, it'll be unforgettable. Think perfume-slicked sheets, late-night laughter, and the kind of kiss that ruins other kisses. It's pleasure with polish, lust with a soundtrack, and a romance that lingers long after the last spin on the silk sheets. Sagittarius plus Scorpio. Sex between Sagittarius and Scorpio is not just intense, it's a full-on psychological thriller with a wickedly erotic plot twist. Scorpio is dark, magnetic, and deeply passionate. They don't just make love, they consume. Sagittarius is wild, funny, and eternally unchained. They make love like they're writing a new story every time. On the surface, these two should clash. Scorpio craves deep connection, control, and emotional fusion. Sagittarius needs space, novelty, and freedom like a drug. But what makes this pairing so addictive is exactly that contrast. It's tension incarnate, and in the bedroom, tension means fire. From the start, Scorpio zeroes in on Sagittarius like a target. There's no casual flirtation here, it's intense eye contact, smoldering silence, and an undercurrent of "I dare you." Sagittarius, always game for a challenge, dives in, half joking, half turned on. The result? A sexual standoff where seduction becomes strategy. Scorpio wants to break Sag open emotionally, Sagittarius wants to outwit, outlast, and outthrill. Neither backs down. Neither plays safe. And that power struggle? It's catnip for both. Physically, this pairing is off the charts. Scorpio knows how to draw out desire until it burns. They control the pace, the depth, the rhythm, and demand full presence from their partner. Sagittarius is up for anything, bringing humor, adventure, and an infectious fearlessness that melts even Scorpio's icy control. Together, their sessions feel like a dark fairy tale, part myth, part fever dream. There's dominance, surrender, deep eye contact, maybe even some tears, the good kind, the kind that come when sex feels like an exorcism and a love song at the same time. But behind all the moaning and hair pulling lies a time bomb, emotional compatibility. Scorpio wants depth, not just during sex, but after. They want devotion. Obsession. A shared soul. Sagittarius? They want to keep it light, exciting, and non-binding. They can absolutely enjoy intimacy, even emotional nudity, but they're not about to sign a soul contract in the middle of pillow talk. That's where things can break down, or explode. Scorpio may interpret Sag's flippancy as betrayal. Sag may feel suffocated by Scorpio's intensity. What started as sexy mind games can spiral into real hurt if no one hits pause. But if they somehow manage to balance this intense polarity, the results are otherworldly. Scorpio can teach Sagittarius how to stop running and feel deeply. Sagittarius can show Scorpio that passion doesn't have to come with possession. They can transform sex into something truly powerful, not just physically, but spiritually. It becomes a reckoning. A rebirth. The kind of connection that changes your idea of pleasure forever. Still, this is not a casual pairing. It's cosmic chemistry with consequences. Think soul-scarring kisses, days spent recovering, and dreams that keep one of them up at night long after it's over. When it's good, it's transcendent. When it's bad, it's a lesson written in fire and smoke. Proceed with caution, or with candles, cuffs, and emotional honesty. Sagittarius plus Sagittarius. Sex between two Sagittarians isn't so much a romantic connection as it is a thrilling, high-speed chase toward pleasure, with no map, no seatbelts, and definitely no brakes. When two free spirits collide, what you get is chaos, creativity, and enough sexual spontaneity to fill an entire season of reality TV. These two don't just hook up, they adventure into sex. The encounter could start with a debate over Nietzsche, lead into a skinny dip at midnight, and end with both of them half-dressed, covered in glitter, and laughing on a rooftop. That's the vibe. Constant motion. Constant curiosity. And yes, constant chaos. There's very little pretense here. Both Sagittarians bring their full, unfiltered selves to the experience. No awkwardness, no games, just a deep desire to feel something real, even if just for the night. And the sexual chemistry? Instant. Explosive. Reckless. One might suggest trying it in a tent during a thunderstorm, and the other will already be halfway undressed. In bed, they're both experimental, open-minded, and insatiably curious. They'll try it all, not because they need to, but because why not? Positions, locations, toys, roleplay, everything is fair game, especially if there's a funny story at the end of it. But the real magic of this pairing is in the joy. Their sex is fun, like, genuinely fun. It's full of laughter, teasing, unexpected twists, and moments of unfiltered play. There's a sense of freedom in knowing the other person isn't judging, isn't overthinking, isn't looking for a fairy tale. They're just in it, fully, wildly, unapologetically. This duo knows how to turn a night into an epic memory, the kind that makes them grin weeks later when a song or a scent triggers the flashback. And yet, that same freedom is also the Achilles heel of this pairing. Because here's the truth, neither of them wants to be the responsible one. Neither wants to slow down, check in, or define anything. They're both so allergic to routine and commitment that even making brunch plans the next morning can feel like emotional jail time. So what you end up with is two people who adore each other in the moment but are both too busy chasing the next high to stick around and build anything deeper. Emotional depth. It's possible, but it'll have to sneak in when neither of them is looking, probably during a road trip or a shared existential crisis. If these two Sagittarians want to make it last longer than the weekend, they'll need to get comfortable with vulnerability, a tall order for two wanderers. One will eventually have to pause and ask, are we just having fun, or is there something more here? And the answer may be awkward, may be unclear, but that's where the real connection can start. Until then, though, the sex is legendary. Wild, wordless, boundaryless, a celebration of mutual freedom and physical joy. No matter how long it lasts, it never feels like a mistake. These are the kinds of lovers who might not stay in your life, but they'll live rent-free in your memory forever, as the one who lit the fire and laughed with you while it burned. Sagittarius plus Capricorn. This is a slow burn that most people wouldn't expect, and that's exactly what makes it so fascinating. Sagittarius and Capricorn look like opposites on the surface. One is impulsive, reckless, allergic to calendars. The other is measured, reserved, and professionally excellent at saying no, but here's the twist, opposites don't just attract, they ignite. Especially when the Sagittarius charm meets Capricorn's unspoken hunger. The result? A surprisingly steamy push-pull dynamic, where fire meets ice, and both melt, eventually. Sagittarius is drawn to Capricorn's mystery. They can't quite figure them out, and for a Sag, that's intoxicating. Capricorn isn't flashy, but they radiate a cool authority that Sag finds incredibly sexy. It's the quiet confidence, the unspoken, I've got this energy that makes Sag want to poke, prod, and ultimately undress them. And Capricorn? Though they may roll their eyes at Sag's chaos, deep down they're intrigued. They see the wild, laughing firecracker in front of them, and wonder what it would be like to let go just once. In the bedroom, this dynamic plays out beautifully. Sagittarius initiates with fire and flair, teasing, touching, maybe proposing something a little taboo just to watch Capricorn's reaction. Capricorn pretends to resist, but when they finally give in, it's game over. Behind that composed exterior lies an incredibly controlled, deeply sensual lover. Every move Capricorn makes is deliberate, calculated, and devastatingly effective. They may not be as flashy as Sag, but they're intense, and their goal is satisfaction, not just sensation. Sagittarius brings the variety, the excitement, the "let's try it just because" attitude. Capricorn brings the focus, the control, the long-haul strategy. And when it clicks, it really clicks. This pairing becomes a perfect blend of wild and refined. Capricorn teaches Sagittarius the value of presence, of savoring each moment rather than chasing the next one. Sagittarius shows Capricorn how to loosen the tie, throw out the plan, and just feel. Sex becomes a space where both can escape their roles, the rebel and the rule follower, and meet as equals. There's power, tension, and a slow build that leads to breathtaking release. But it's not always smooth. Sagittarius can get frustrated by Capricorn's caution. Why so serious, becomes a recurring question. Capricorn, meanwhile, may judge Sag's need for constant stimulation and lack of commitment. If Sagittarius disappears for days chasing some spontaneous thrill, Capricorn might shut down emotionally. For this to work, both need to stretch. Sagittarius has to slow down and recognize that stability can be sexy. Capricorn needs to take off the armor and admit they, too, crave chaos now and then. If they can meet in the middle, the result is a kind of bedroom alchemy. They balance each other, not by changing who they are, but by expanding into something more. Sagittarius reminds Capricorn that pleasure doesn't need a schedule. Capricorn shows Sagittarius that depth can make the fire burn longer, not just brighter. It's a sexy, unexpected tango between discipline and desire, and if they're both willing to stick around, it can be unforgettable. Sagittarius plus Aquarius. This isn't just sex, it's an experiment, a revolution, a cosmic brainstorming session with no boundaries and even fewer clothes. When Sagittarius and Aquarius come together, it feels less like a traditional hookup and more like two extraterrestrial beings conducting field research on pleasure. Both signs are wildly independent, freakishly creative, and fueled by curiosity rather than convention. The result? A sexual dynamic that is so unpredictable, so deeply them, it doesn't even register on the average compatibility radar. And that's exactly why it works. Aquarius, ruled by Uranus, is the innovator of the zodiac, always thinking 5 steps ahead, pushing past social norms, and craving novelty in every aspect of life, including the bedroom. Sagittarius, ruled by Jupiter, is the explorer, forever chasing new experiences, hungry for fun, and turned on by boldness. Together, they say yes to everything. Want to try lucid dream sex techniques? Done. Want to roleplay as time travelers from a dystopian future? Say less. These two don't do boring. They don't do basic. They do weird, wild, and wonderfully uncensored. Foreplay between them is just as likely to involve an hours-long debate about alternate realities as it is to include lube and feathers. There's mental stimulation, humor, and so much intellectual chemistry that by the time they touch, they're already buzzing. Aquarius brings innovation, gadgets, tech, avant-garde fantasies. Sagittarius brings enthusiasm, why not, energy that makes even the most out-there idea feel like the best idea ever. If it sounds taboo or borderline illegal in a few states, even better. What makes their sexual bond so electric is that neither is afraid to look ridiculous, and that's what frees them. Sagittarius doesn't care about looking cool. Aquarius doesn't care about being conventional. So they dive into the moment fully, laughing, improvising, exploring without shame. There's no checklist of how sex should go. There's only what feels good, what's never been tried before, and what's next. It's not about orgasm alone, it's about the journey, the experimentation, and the ability to turn a bedroom into a spaceship of sensual discovery. But this freedom comes with its own quirks. Emotional intimacy may not come easily. Aquarius intellectualizes feelings, and Sagittarius tends to dodge them altogether if they threaten their sense of freedom. So while the sex is endlessly fascinating, the aftercare might be lacking. Don't expect cuddles and whispered sweet nothings, expect a snack break and a discussion about consciousness or AI. Their connection is real, but it's cerebral first, physical second, and emotional third. That emotional gap can become an issue if either starts craving more grounded intimacy. Still, when it works uniquely well. Aquarius feels seen by Sagittarius open-mindedness, and Sagittarius feels stimulated by Aquarius eccentric genius. Sex becomes a form of communication, their own private language, expressed in body paint, blindfolds, and, don't ask, just watch, moments. It's not for the faint of heart. But for these two cosmic misfits, it's home. This is the couple that forgets what day it is because they've been testing tantric breathing techniques for 8 hours. The kind that turns a camping trip into a sensual art project. The kind that makes other couples say, what the hell are they even doing? The answer? Whatever they want. No judgment. No rules. No pants. Sagittarius plus Pisces. When Sagittarius and Pisces meet, it's like the first few pages of a romance novel written on a dream cloud during a thunderstorm. There's magic, mystery, and a magnetic pull that neither fully understands. Pisces is soft, fluid, emotionally rich, the lover who feels every touch like poetry. Sagittarius is fiery, fast-moving, emotionally elusive, the lover who writes poetry, reads it out loud, then disappears to climb a mountain. Together, they create a beautiful kind of friction, one that can feel like destiny or delusion, depending on the day. In the bedroom, their chemistry starts with wonder. Pisces brings depth, that soulful, watery energy that turns physical connection into something otherworldly. They touch with intention, look with longing, and seem to know exactly what you need even before you do. Sagittarius brings excitement, a raw, unfiltered energy that turns sex into an adventure. They're the type to kiss you mid-laugh, pull you into bed mid-sentence, and suggest trying something new before you've caught your breath. When these two come together, sex feels like a dream you don't want to wake up from. There's a natural fluidity between them. Sagittarius loves the feeling of being adored, and Pisces adores deeply. Pisces is drawn to Sag's brightness, their freedom, their uninhibited joy. Sagittarius is enchanted by Pisces' intuition, their emotional depth, their ability to turn sex into a spiritual experience. They might start off fast and playful, but somehow, almost without realizing it, they end up wrapped in each other, exchanging secrets between breaths and moans. The connection is tender, hypnotic, and sometimes heartbreakingly beautiful. But it's also slippery. Pisces wants to merge, emotionally, spiritually, sometimes even cosmically. Sagittarius wants to explore, touch the stars, then keep moving. This can lead to trouble. Pisces may start to hope for more connection, more presence, more commitment. Sagittarius, always with one foot out the door, might not be ready, or willing, to offer that. What felt like a soul-deep union one night can feel like a disappearing act the next morning. When misaligned, this sexual relationship becomes unbalanced. Pisces gives and gives, hoping to anchor Sagittarius through love and intimacy. But Sag doesn't want to be anchored, they want to be inspired. If Pisces becomes too emotionally heavy, too reliant on Sag to provide stability, Sag starts looking for the nearest exit. And Pisces? Left wondering what was real and what was just part of the story. But when these two find the right rhythm, when Pisces gives Sag space, and Sagittarius stays long enough to be present, something truly beautiful can unfold. They can teach each other. Pisces shows Sagittarius how to slow down and feel. Sagittarius reminds Pisces that joy can be found in imperfection, in laughter, in letting go. Sex becomes a sacred, evolving experience, one part fantasy, one part fire. This is a love that feels like a song, sometimes heartbreaking, sometimes euphoric, always unforgettable. And even if it doesn't last, both walk away changed. Sagittarius will remember the softness. Pisces will remember the spark. And in some parallel universe, they're probably still tangled up under the stars, writing their own myth. So, is Sagittarius the zodiac's wild child of the bedroom? Pretty much. They're not everyone's cup of tea, but they are everyone's one unforgettable night. Like this deep dive into zodiac fire and fantasy? Hit that like button, smash subscribe, and don't forget to check the links in the description for more cosmic content. Until next time, may your charts be spicy and your matches even spicier.